Hi everyone, this video is my last of the refilms. This is my memories from the 1960s. I deleted this by mistake. It's quite a long video this, but this will be the last video now for a while. All the videos now which will be coming will be when I get new machines as per usual. This video makes it 50 on my channel and that's where we stop for now. So I shall see you all next time I get a new machine. We're actually back to normal now. This is the very last one that will be sort of, put on as a refilm. Cheers for now. Hello! Welcome to this one-off video as I recall some of my adventures around the amusement arcades in the summer of 1968 and beyond. Hopefully, it will give you a little insight into what it was like back then. These incidents have stayed with me through the passage of time. Enjoy. Now this video has only come about thanks to the only diary I ever made, which was in the year 1968. I wrote down things that happened in the arcades to a boy aged just 13, and it's triggered the old memory banks. Let's check out this diary. Right, referring to the diary, 23rd of June 1968, I won 12 shillings 5pence halfpenny in the arcades. Must have found an halfpenny. But the bad news that day, I got flaming sent out by that little woman with glasses. Now that little woman with glasses was Mary Greaves. Oh, that was something you didn't want to hear in 1968. She was only an office worker, but she stood at the sort of office entrance and she was looking for locals to chase. Either chase them out or catch them. She never caught me, but I did have friends that were caught and I said, what happened? They were caught by Mary. She dragged them into the office. But what she did, she took all the pennies, just the pennies, out of the pocket and confiscated them. And then told them, don't come in here again or we'll have the police on you. It was all pretty scary stuff at the time. Mary Greaves. Ooh. Right, here's a picture of Mary stood in the office door, just there. She used to stand at that door looking for locals to chase them out. But there was always a thing with this. When she started running and chasing you, she always stopped at the entrance, so we knew we were pretty safe there. One day she chased me out and she ran into the high street. I couldn't believe it. I was scared to death. She actually didn't stop at the door and I kept running about 100 metres when we got to the traffic lights. She didn't catch me and then she stopped. But what a shock that day when she actually chased me into the main high street. This is Mary Greaves. She sat in Funland Cashbox circa 1965. I just mentioned, odd times I got chucked out by her. She only chased you if she wasn't in the cash box. She couldn't chase you out now because she's working in the cash box. So they're sent out with the little woman with glasses. We'd obviously made the mistake of walking past the cash box when she were in there and we were sent out. How did the machine work, you ask? Well, these outer lights used to go round in a circle, all flashing. Then when it finally stopped on one, say E, it would light up in the middle there, E pays 12. Then play now would come on and round it would go again, and say it stops on D there, then the D would light in the middle, as paying 6pence. Like I say, I'd worked out if that E flashed the exact same time as play now come on, that was the cue that those 12 was going to come up. It was a 6-section player, so I did well to get a penny in that E, and that E, because it was only a short spell before cycles. I was never going to be able to get round the other way. And as I say, when it won, what a thrill that was. Well, one busy Sunday in Funland, Mum came round with me. And I knew I'd be okay with parents because they didn't touch you when you went in with parents. So I come to this machine. One of my favourites, ABCDE. I backed T on 3 sections and it came up. I could not believe it. Normally if you bet 3, you'd think it'd sort of reduce the odds. Anyway, suddenly these payouts started clashing out. 3 sections here, all paying out at the same time. Dunno. These 3 sections. I got down to pick money up. I was grabbed from behind. Yeah, I was. I grabbed from behind. It were Mary. She grabbed me. For some reason, she suddenly saw Mother there, and she let go. And she just walked off. She must have been absolutely gutted that day. She'd been trying to get me for ages, for weeks. And the one time she grabbed hold of me, Mum was there. So that was one round to me. Happy days. Right, this is Funland 1968. Can you see there? That's the ABCDE machine. It stayed in that position the whole time until decimalisation arrived in 1971, and then that machine was actually scrapped. Right, my next story, I'm going to tell you about the Threepenny Derby racer that we had in town. Crompton's 20 player on Threepenny Bit. And for about a period of a month in one summer of 1968, I absolutely cleaned up on this Threepenny Derby. Now this is a picture of the Derby racer where it was in our place, took it near the time. Now as you can see, the Derby racer was there. The Threepenny Derby racer was there. So it was pretty near for us to run out if we saw the attendants coming. It was so near to the door, which was very handy back then. Right, let's tell you the Derby racer story. These are the horses that went round here. These are the horses you could bet, various names: Teal, Dante, Nickel Coin, Presidium. They were genuine horses that had won sort of big races. And if certain horses had a little light on, and if it landed on your section, it lit this win up here, and you could win 6, 9, or a shilling. Now to start with, when I first met this machine, the horses were going around like this, speed of light. But for a month, they were crawling round. They were moving about 4 positions like this, look. And me and a friend were running ahead of this shilling horse. And just waiting, just before Play Now went off, we banged threepence in. Just moving around like this, look. It was only moving about 6 or 7 spaces at a time. It was so easy. Even I worked it out, 13 years old. This was absolutely brilliant at the time. It really was. Just going round like that. Just moving about 7 positions every time. I don't know what the arcade attendants were thinking of, to be honest with you. So just before Play Now went out, we dropped the Threepenny Bit in where the shilling horse was virtually near. Let's explain it. I've got threepence ready in this ear. The shilling horse is coming round. Play Now is on, look. I'll drop in the threepence now. And then it would drop into the win, paying a shilling. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. We absolutely cleaned up for about a month at this. As I say, we were playing it during the day, but we had to look out for the attendants coming, but it was very near the door, which were useful. But I made an absolute fortune in the month. To cut a long story short, eventually they'd got it working and it were flying round again like this. There was no system at all. Threepence a go to win to win 6, 9 or a shilling. Yes, it's that man again, the one on the left there. Boo! I think he had it in for all local kids, to be honest. It wasn't just me and my friend that he sort of chased out. But regarding the Derby racer, it was in his arcade. So we knew his dinner hour was 12 till 1, right? So just after 12, we'd both be outside the arcade. We'd see him push bike up the road on his black push bike. Then we'd go in till about 10 to 1. My friend would then go look at the door and wait for him coming back. He'd say, Rob, he's on his way back up, like, on his push bike. So then we'd try and squeeze the last shilling out of the machine and then leave the arcade. But one day we was in there, about 12:30 it was. He'd only been gone half an hour. We were just bent down to pick some winnings out this Derby racer. He was stood behind us. Hell, now that was a shock. He sort of grabbed for my friend first, didn't get him. I just ran off, shot out the arcade. I left a shilling in the payout cup. But that day was a hell of a shock. He'd come back early to catch us. Why? You didn't own the arcade. You was only a worker there. Why was it so important to you to waste half your dinner just to catch us? You crook. You know what? In that 1 month period when we cleaned up, my pocket was bulging with these devils. We made an absolute fortune that particular month. Yes, in the book under W, it tells you how to work the Wheel of Fortune out. Well, you can't look at that. No, go on, you won't be able to do it. Me and David Greaves were the only two who could do it out of all the locals. But this is how I saw it at the time in 1968. The way you can tell is by the way it clicks when the word play now comes on. The more time it takes to start is when play now appears. If the arrow doesn't move while about 3 seconds after, the wheel will not go round much. Vice versa the other way. Now how the hell can you work out from that? But we did, me and David Greaves. Ah, the old Wheel of Fortune, my favourite. Me and my good friend David Greaves were the only two locals who could work these out. And we had 5 in town to go at, believe it or not. Some of them had an interrupter though. We called it a mixer. If there was an interrupter in, there was no system. But if there was no interrupter, it was good news. And we stood round them for quite a bit. Mostly we got chucked out. We weren't allowed to stand there for long. But when we did, me and David Greaves made it pay. Yay! Of course, one Sunday I went round with Mum. We went in the arcade with 3 Wheel of Fortune, so I thought, oh, I'm safe with Mum here. We stood there a bit, I was making it pay like this. I mean, the attendants could hear it paying out, we know that. And they didn't like it. They did not like it, me winning. Get in! Yeah, with Mum at my side, I was having a good day. I was stuffing the bugger. It was all this. Get in! Like I say, I was having a pearl a day on the Wheel of Fortune. Mum was stood there, they couldn't send me out. The machine were clashing out. My pockets were getting heavier and heavier with more pennies. I was having a fantastic day. Then suddenly this happened. The attendant switched it off. He just walked up with Mum there to the plug just to the left of it, switched it off. I was shocked. With Mum being there, Mum didn't say oh, she couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe what had happened. The crook. He came over and switched it off, then just walked off like a coward. Yep, there he is. I won't name him. David Greaves will know who he is. This man was hell for us as kids. He threw us out every time he could, every chance he got. And you're right. This is the man that actually switched the Wheel of Fortune off. The crook. This was interesting. 3rd of October 1968. I went into Empire. That's where Derby Day was, by the way, as well. They had turned the Wheel of Fortune off. Fred Abbott, that was the owner at the time, we were called Fred's Bingo. He'd actually turned it off. He must have seen me coming. Were you that scared of it, Fred, that I was going to win on it, that you turned it off? Bah! I had to bring this up. You remember that last post when we said Fred, who owned the Empire, had shut the Wheel of Fortune off because he saw me coming? Yes, they were scared of me and that Wheel of Fortune in the 1960s and the 1970s. Just found this. We were talking to Ambrose, that little queer man. He wasn't queer as in gay or out like that, just strange. In Fred's, well, that was the Empire. You can see it there, Empire. And he says that there is no system to any machine. Then he said to me, you keep trying to work a system out on that wheel over there, but you cannot. So I went over, put a penny in the 10, which was the bob. Obviously, when decimalisation come in, they changed them to 10, and it blooming won. And all his face went red. I'll never forget that. Then he said, don't be hanging around that fruit. That's what he called them, fruits. That's how he talks. He tried to say, don't hang around that all day. I'd only been there a minute and I cleaned up. Now, in a sense, Ambrose was right. There is no system on the Wheel of Fortune. Anybody tells you that there is, then they're lying. Me and David Greaves were the only two in our area to work it out, and we do it by the play now and don't play. That's how we do it. Even today, in today's age, I've had people come up and try mine. I've put a rubber band round the interrupter, so that means there's no mixer on it, and they don't get it. Just back then, me and David got it. And I'll be honest, it was our main machine in the 1960s. Right, the Moonraker. We had 3 of these in town. There was one in Empire, one in Funland, and one in Marine. And I actually did this as well. I think I must have picked it up from local kids. They used to come in and knee it here with your knee. Just knee on this part here. And the vibration moved the coins into the craters and they fell. There's a close-up of the machine. This was the position where you knee it. And there was another arcade in the Empire. The floors were wooden. And you sort of walked in, bouncing up and down a bit on these wooden floors. And the machine shook. And many a time, craters dropped, giving us money. It was a massive machine. And quite an highlight back in 1968. How do you play this machine, you ask? Well, you inserted pennies at the top here. Not sure if there were 2 or 4 slots, because it was quite a big area. There were possibly 2 this side and 2 that side. There were possibly 4. The penny come down on these pins, could take them anywhere, and then it dropped down below here. And these were craters with pennies in, and when they got so many in, they give way. The craters give way. It was an incredible machine, you know, at the time. One of my favourites, actually. Yeah, this was a picture of Funland in 1968. Here we had an archer's machine, and there you just see a shot of the Moonraker. That's where the Moonraker were positioned. They'd moved it here so these stall holders could see us if we started kneeing it. So once it got moved there, that was virtually game over. Right, another shot circa 1968 in Funland. Here again, a bit clearer. We see the archers, and here you see the Moonraker machine. Right, trogging through my diary, this was 30th of June 1968. Arcade that is now Jackson's Cafe. Bill Coombs working there, that's a chap that the family knew. Little Balloons and Red paid 12. Won 11 and 8 in Funland and Marine, and I emptied Twinkle Toes. Now, how brilliant is that? Wrote by me in 1968. Emptied Twinkle Toes. Happy days indeed. And how did I empty Twinkle Toes in 1968? By learning as a kid that the red 12 always came after a blue 2. Magic, eh? So we bet the red. Red bet. Here we go. Get in! There you are. Red paying 12. And the arcade people did not like that. Happy days. They didn't like that, the arcade attendants, but we did. We loved it. And it's amazing to think it was down to me that day when I emptied it in 1968. The actual owners then, they changed it. You can see there where the original thing was. Well, what they did, they soldered a different thing on, just a piece of piping or something, to hold more coins. That is not the original. I'll show you after this what was the original. But as you can see, they changed it. And all this was because of me in 1968. Now, how brilliant is that, eh? How brilliant. Right, this is the original. It's not the actual one, but this is the type that we're in, because it's same as in my Derby day. And obviously, it doesn't hold many pennies, as you can see. You know, it's only a smallish cup. So yes, It was all thanks to me that this got removed and a copper bit of piping was put in its place. Magic! Yeah, I say in the diary the arcade that was Jackson's Cafe. Well, actually, the cafe's still standing if you look to the right. So they built the arcade, the new arcade in 1968, right next door to the cafe. And that's the arcade where the actual Twinkle Toes, my actual machine, was in there in 1968. Now, how great is that? Ah, World Flight. We only had one of these in town and I never saw one anywhere else. You could bet 5 destinations. Dakar was white, Lisbon was green, Paris was yellow in the middle, which is lit now, Bermuda was blue, and Miami was red. And the idea is that pointer would stop on a certain price, and that's the price you'd win if you got the destination right. Now, one night I was going round with Mother, and we went in the arcade. This was a 2-sided, by the way. And the pointer had stopped on 12. It wasn't turning. It was on 12 at the top. Incredible. So in the space of about 30 minutes, me and Mother emptied every section. We were by betting all 5 every time. And of course, eventually emptied. What a thrill that was. The lights were flashing, but the pointer wasn't turning. Gradually, as the columns got empty, we just stuck to the ones that weren't empty. Anyway, I went out with pockets bulging. Me and Mother went out, come back in about half an hour, and it was going again. The pointer was going. So that was a hell of a good night. We couldn't do the other side, because if we'd have gone the other side, the men who stood on like an island would have all seen us. And obviously I was known anyway in there. And they would have seen us. Yeah, just a close up of the pointer of World Flight. Can you see the 12 there? It's pretty hard to see, but it's there right at the top. You could win 2, 4, 6 or 12. And as I say, for the pointer to stop at the 12 o'clock position that night, to get stuck in that position was incredible. That is a night I will never forget. I made a load that night. I had pop and sweets all that week for the money I won that night. Much obliged. Right, we refer to the diary, April the 12th, 1968, Good Friday. As kids, we used to look forward to Good Friday because it was the start of the arcade's opening for the summer seasons. And Jackson's Radio, there was a guy in there, Sentence. He didn't like locals. We had loads of trouble with him. Always got chucked out, maybe 8 times out of 10. So we was hoping this time, when their doors opened, he wasn't going to be in there. Little did we know as kids, the arcade kept him on all winter. So in theory, he was always going to be in there. Anyway, let's go back to 1968, Good Friday. The doors open, Jackson's Radio open, Sentence still in. No! This says it all about Sentence. June the 13th, 1968. Gained 3 and 6 in Jackson's Radio. Sentence's half day off. Yeah, we knew everything. We knew every one of their half day offs. We didn't miss a trick back then. Right, this is Jackson's Radio where Noel worked in the 1960s. This is a 1960s picture. We had a treasure cave here at the door, you know, with the elephant. And that was a Pepe the Clown stood there. The next picture shows Noel in the same arcade in the 1950s, which is here. So he'd been there a few years, obviously, because this is a sort of late 50s, and I'm talking 1968 now. And he was there. That's our Noel. You crook. And I'm going to tell you a little story now about the forecaster incident. Now, the forecaster is a machine they had in there. I've searched high and low, and this is the only picture I've got. I'm amazed that there's a picture. This is an old picture. It had been chucked in a skip or something, but that was the forecaster that caused all the trouble in 1968. What you did, you backed dog numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. And this went round like this, flash round. And then it'd stop randomly. Ta-da! On one of them. Well, I went in there with Mum, so I didn't get chucked out. And I backed one of them. I don't know what number it was. We'll say it's this one just for now, the white one. To win sixpence. So I put my penny in, pressed start. This light went round. The horses didn't move, it was just a light going round. And then after so long it stopped. Yeah, sixpence. 6 bangs of the solenoid. It didn't pay out twopence a time, it paid a penny out a time. Not a penny. Not a penny come out. Of course, we went up to Noel. I went up and said, can you come and have a look at this? He hadn't paid sixpence, which he hadn't. He pulls up all big-headed. You know, he knew Mother were there. He sort of had to do it. So what he did, he started backing the sixpence. Pressed the start. Round it went, round and round. Didn't win. And he did this for about 15 minutes. We were all getting bored as hell. Then finally, after about 15 minutes, ta-da! He stopped on the sixpenny dog and it didn't pay out. Just 6 clicks again and no money. His face went red. He genuinely thought we were just making it up. He was gutted that day that he had to pay us sixpence even though I genuinely won it. You see, Noel, not everybody were crooks like you made them appear. Right, this isn't the diary, this is one of the other little books I had. I think this piece was wrote about 1970. The Duchess, One-Armed Bandit. How to beat it. You drop a penny in and just before you hear it settle, bring the handle up and down quite fast. The penny will jam and you pull the handle down. Then as it finishes, raise the handle till you hear a click. Then just keep playing. I think what happened here, I actually bought the Duchess in 1970 and I learnt this trick by actually buying the machine itself. Yeah, the old Duchess trick. I think I bought this in 1970 just before decimalisation and I think I discovered the trick myself, but it was suspicious. This I only ever did it once. I only ever tried this once. It worked eventually, but it was suspicious with the handle up and down like this. You have to put the handle down, insert the penny. Now, how suspicious does that look? I've done it. Did you hear that click? I've done it. You'd bring the handle up and listen for a click. There. So I could go again. So it did work, you see. Up again. Click. I could go all day long. You had to pretend to put a penny in. Click. Very dodgy at the time though. Very dodgy. Right, I've opened the machine up now. Can you see the jam position? How it's jammed as we pull the handle down, look. That's your click. Then you raise the handle, listen for the click. There. And you can go again. So that's the trick. We've finally got a winner. That's the trick in action. Here we go. Now this is from the diary, but I always update with little things in the back of the diary if I remember. So this was updated in February 2021. When I was having a good day in the arcades back in the 1960s, words I remember me and my friend David Greaves saying were, we've had a perler day, we've had a finny day, and we've had an euchre day. Now come on David, where the hell did we get these words from? But it was brilliant at the time. I'm having a perler day, and I had a few of those. All right, well there's the finny day, and there's the euchre day. Despite going through the diary, I couldn't find the perler day, and that was my favourite of all the three. I think this must have been the best Easter I ever had on the machines. Started 2nd of June 1968, which Sunday, 10 bob in Funland. On the Monday, the bank holiday, a finny day, finny, won £1, 8 and 9 in the arcades. Then on the 4th, I gained 11 shillings and threepence in Funland. Then on the Wednesday, I gained 3 and 6 in arcades, mostly in Funland. and I've done a little sum and added all them wins up, and it comes to 542 pennies won in 4 days. I was rolling in it in June 1968. Oh, I am so glad I made this one diary. Just shooting ahead now to my birthday, look. December the 19th, 1968, my birthday. I am 14 years old. Wow. Don't forget when the action was taking place, I was only 13, because that was in the summer of 68. This has moved on to December now, so I was 13 at the time. Absolutely brilliant. It's that man yet again on the blasted left. Got to tell you this story. I'm going to sort of go forward now to 1973. I was 19 then. I went in the arcade in Marine. He wasn't working there then, he'd finished. Glad to see the back of him, to be honest. Anyway, he come in. He come in just to have a catch up with his friends. He saw me, he comes over, he says, get out. I said, hang on, I'm not a kid now. And I refused to budge. His face went red. I think that's probably the first time that somebody had actually stood up to him. And I went nowhere. So that's one round you didn't win, my son. You paid. Look, I did a lot of winning in the 1960s, but there were bad days as well. Look at this one, 24th of March. Lost 2 and 9 and I spent 4 bob at Victor's. Well, Victor's was our sweet shop. So I downed my sorrows that night with buying sweets and pop to make up for my disappointment. Here's a few more. May the 5th, 1 and 11. May the 12th, 2 bob down the drain in Funland. 30th of May, lost 1 and 6, and I burst my beach ball as well. 4th of August, lost about 10 bob, that's 120 pennies in Marine. It was a useless day lost on Wheel of Fortune, that's even worse. 5 bob down the drain on 22nd of August, and it was that man again's half day off. Finally went round arcades and lost about 2 and 6. Oh no, 1st of September 1968. Well, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed that little insight into my world, aged 13, back in 1968. I'll tell you what, folks, they were great times. Bye-bye.